Did Jungkook call Jimin husband, Namjoon, at the 2018 Melon Music Awards? We have a silent clip, several attempts at lip reading, and years of debate. Did Jimin and Jungkook enlist together? We have an official big hit music notice, a shared enlistment date, their joint discharge 18 months later. JiKookers will call both things evidence, but they are not the same kind of evidence, and they should not be given the same weight. One is an interpretation, the other is a documented decision. If we cannot tell the difference between these types of evidence, then the strongest of it becomes buried beneath things that might be very sweet or emotionally convincing, but can't be verified. So today we are asking some deceptively simple questions. When does a JiKook moment become part of a meaningful pattern? And what can that pattern honestly tell us? Hi everyone, I'm CJ and welcome to CJ Moon Facts, which is the new home of the Only Facts series and all my JiKook analysis and commentary videos. They all live here now. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, make sure you subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss anything, because there's now going to be more than ever now that I'm not fighting the algorithm by by combining content on the same channel. If you've watched Only Facts before, you know that this channel is not here to tell you what to believe. That's not what I do. I am here to examine the evidence and look at what is publicly available, separate observation from interpretation, and ask what the evidence can reasonably support. This is away from all the slow-mo music video edits and people trying to tell you this is what they definitely saw. And that matters because evidence doesn't have to prove everything in order to prove something. And those somethings can all add up and still be called a logical conclusion. So stay with me. So today, I want to talk you through how I evaluate JiKook moments and patterns, examine some of the traps we can fall into when we're looking for proof that JiKook is real, and explain why eliminating some of even these biggest moments can actually make the overall case stronger. Let's begin with MMA in 2018. The footage is undeniably sweet and lovely. Jimin and Jungkook are absorbed in one another, while the event just continues on around them. Jimin points first to himself, then to Jungkook. And then Jungkook replies, and Jimin reacts. Those are observations. We can all see them, but there is no usable audio. So the claim that Jungkook said husband or your boyfriend comes from attempts to read his lips. Some Korean-speaking fans firmly believe that those mouth movements fit the words for husband or boyfriend. Others don't. But what's important here is that just because we can't prove everything doesn't mean it makes the moment meaningless. It simply changes what we can prove from this. We can say they were physically close. We can say they were focused on one another, and they were comfortable sharing a private exchange in a very public room, on a broadcast no less. We can observe their repeated touches. We can see Jungkook's finger heart, and we can see him either apparently singing or mouthing the words to Roy Kim's ballad Only Then, though it's Jungkook, most likely he was singing, while touching Jimin. The only thing from all this is we can't say that we know exactly what it was that he said, and that gives us our first test when you're looking at a piece of evidence, is what can I directly observe, and what is someone else adding to this moment that isn't necessarily fact. So before accepting a caption or a translation or a slowed down edit, I find the earliest available source, original source, if possible. Check for the audio. Look at what happened before and after. Put everything in context. And then ask myself, as I'm looking, do the independent translations agree? Because they might, and sometimes we get very different translations. I've got a whole separate video about why that is. It's not a criticism of translators by any means. There are logical reasons why. But a caption repeated beneath 10 posts is still, or can still be sometimes, just one unverified caption. Which brings us to a very common fandom trap, which is confusing the number of posts with the actual weight of the evidence. Take Rose Bowl. The footage has been clipped, zoomed, slowed down, brightened, analyzed from multiple angles, set to 1 million different edit songs. Those angles were absolutely valuable when that moment first hit. If you weren't in the fandom when Rose Bowl hit, and I was that night on Twitter, there were literally people from a certain section of the fandom claiming it wasn't real. It didn't happen. Jungkook didn't have his mouth anywhere near Jimin's ear, let alone touching it. And of course, when the high def came out from other angles, we got the proof that no, it did. So all those different angles and all those different times that video repeated itself or was repeated helped prove that that moment was indeed accurately seen and real. But 100 edits of Rose Bowl is still just one event. It doesn't necessarily have to carry the weight of 100 pieces of evidence. One concert is still just one concert, and one moment is still just one moment, and it's not a pattern of behavior. The same is true of compilations. When an editor labels a video, Jungkook being jealous over Jimin, before we see it, we have already been primed to interpret every glance as jealousy. The caption frames any ambiguous moment that's included as jealousy, and confirmation bias. The reason we're there in the first place is because we wanted to see Jungkook being jealous. Confirmation bias then encourages us to notice anything that supports the evidence while discounting anything that doesn't. So if every clip was selected because the editor had already decided that this glance, whether it was neutral or something off camera, etc., meant jealousy, they're priming their audience to believe that too. And then as confirmation bias comes in, more and more people will accept that. So once you've watched an interpretation, and it is still interpretation, repeated 20 times in a row in an edit, you can come to believe the next clip and the next clip and the next clip quite easily. But in this case, jealousy is an emotional state, and we can't see into his head. We don't know if that look actually meant that he was jealous. And unless they're showing you what happened before and what happened after, do you have context in this edit to see everything of the situation that was going around? So I think it's important to stop and go back and look at moments independently rather than 20 of them in a row, which is just going to use that repetition to force something that might actually be an illusion. So how many independent events do we have? Not camera angles, not edits, not reposts, verifiable events. Because repetition is not alone. We need then to compare what we're being told something is to something more neutral. So matching clothes and jewelry are a really good example of this. JiKook fans have collected, I don't even want to put a number on it, number of examples of matching clothes and jewelry and accessories. identical items even, or items labeled as a set. Some matches absolutely will be intentional, no doubt. But we have to remember that BTS also work with stylists and with brands. So the clothing that is being worn because it's a piece of content they are scheduled to film or to present, was that their choice or was that the stylist's choice? So before treating it all as evidence of couple behavior, and matching clothes and accessories absolutely in Korean culture is couple behavior, we have to stop and ask, don't we? Was that item personally chosen? Was it worn away from a styled schedule? How unique was it? Just because they both wore a black hoodie doesn't necessarily mean it was the same black hoodie. Do the other members own that same piece of clothing or accessory because it was from a brand deal that was done? And that's not cynicism at all. You know, if you've watched my content before, I very firmly believe that there is something deep and romantic going on between Jimin and Jungkook. Absolutely. But being selective about the evidence is precisely why I believe that. Because of the number of times I've looked at it and gone, yeah, but that one doesn't really count, and that one I'm not so sure about, is still being left with a pile of evidence that then is kind of undeniable. So being selective about the evidence is precisely what makes the examples that do survive that cut even more compelling. So take that example and compare it. Compare it to the other members. Compare it to other groups. If members of other groups have done the same thing. If a behavior is common throughout BTS, so you see other pairings doing the same thing, then it cannot become exclusively evidence about JiKook. It just can't. A sponsor or a stylist selected match carries far less weight than two people independently choosing matching items during personal time, or having worn each other's particularly unique, yes, I'm looking at that t-shirt that was Jungkook's that Jimin was then wearing later in the hotel room on the V Live. That is far more meaningful. So sometimes, yes, the matching thing is very meaningful. And other times the answer, I look at it and I go, it's cute, but I don't know if it actually means anything. And that's okay. JiKookers, we don't have to scrape for every piece of evidence, guys. There's enough there, I promise you. So now consider patterns, and patterns are much harder to dismiss. So Jimin and Jungkook repeatedly, over the years, choose one another, as opposed to other members in the group, as companions during travel and major life events. So in 2017, they traveled to Tokyo during personal time on a trip they later described as being arranged for Jimin's birthday and intended just for the two of them. Those are facts. No matter what anyone wants to tell you, those are facts. They're documented in their own words on Bang 10 Bombs and other content. We know Jungkook filmed and edited G.C.F. in Tokyo himself, and we know that he did it without Jimin knowing it was going to be an edit. Again, in Jungkook's own words. Whatever interpretation we put on that film and the reactions in it, those are interpretations, but you can't deny Jungkook's creative choices, the choice of the song and the lyrics of the song, and that Jungkook has repeatedly told us how important lyrics of songs are to him. Those are all facts. 6 years later, Jimin joined Jungkook in the United States after Jungkook's Good Morning America appearance, and that became the beginning of Are You Sure? Season 1, followed by trips through Jeju and Sapporo. Again, The official announcement says it's them setting off without plans and enjoying travel together. We will compare these all. Just bear with me. There is a thread here. Later that year, Big Hit announced that Jimin and Jungkook were enlisting together. Enlisting together, companion enlistment, is not a glance across a table at an awards show. It's a consequential decision attached to one of the most demanding periods in their adult lives. They entered together in December of 2023. They served in the same unit. They spoke to us multiple times now about how they lived together, worked together, supported each other, slept next to each other, enough touching sometimes that Jungkook was literally sleeping on Jimin. And they were discharged together in June of 2025. Almost immediately after returning to civilian life, pretty much before they did anything else, they made the decision to travel together again after just spending 18 months of enlistment together for Are You Sure? Season 2, traveling through Switzerland and Vietnam. So we have Tokyo, Are You Sure of 1? Companion Enlistment, and Are You Sure Season 2. These are independent events across a span of 8 years or so. They're not all equally private. 2 became commercial television series, but all involved time together, planning, making a deliberate choice to do this together. And that's what makes them a pattern, is not that they were all just traveling. It's that they all involved deliberately choosing each other in these moments. Either man could have proposed a travel program with another member and gone off and traveled with another member. But they made Are You Sure together. And we see how important it was for them to have done this together, because when Tae joined them in Jeju, he was identified as a guest, not as a third host. Jungkook even jokingly called him their first and probably last guest, while they teased him about inviting himself onto our trip. That does not prove that either member was unhappy that Tae was there. And it certainly doesn't prove that they don't like him or didn't want him around at all. Not what I'm saying. But it does reinforce that Jimin and Jungkook understood that program to be something primarily for just the 2 of them. They are also the only K-pop idols known to have completed companion enlistment together. Not even other BTS members made that choice. And if you follow the route that some people do, trying to discount the importance of this decision, that, well, it was all part of Hybe's thing that they could enlist and then come out at the same time, then they would have done this with other members within the group as well, but they didn't. And that decision carried a trade-off, because companion soldiers, when you enlist as a companion soldier, you don't have the freedom of choosing your assignment that people who enlist separately do. So companion soldiers were assigned to field units in Gyeonggi or Gangwon, pardon my pronunciation, regions that contained many of the northern frontline divisions. So Jimin and Jungkook accepted a restricted range of placements and the possibility of a more remote and a more demanding assignment in a more dangerous location in exchange for being able to enlist together. They knew it was going to be harder. That 18 months was going to be harder if they enlisted together, and they still did it. So, again, we have this pattern now of them traveling and choosing each other. Now comes the most important step. I'm hoping you're following me all the way through this, which is matching the size of the conclusion, the significance of the evidence, because not all facts carry equal weight. So shortly after their discharge, Jimin and Jungkook attended Jin's solo concert in Goyang. Backstage footage shows Jimin calling excitedly to Jungkook before they go and they hug each other. And Jungkook jokes, didn't we just come together? Of course, Jimin agrees. Yes, they went together. It's lovely. And it definitely contributes to the pattern of their closeness. But attending a concert, sharing a hug, eating dinner out with another member, visiting the gym with another member are relatively ordinary, low-cost choices. They show that two people enjoy one another's company, but they do not carry an enormous conclusion alone. The reason people go back to companion enlistment is because that carries different weight. It required discussion. It required matching applications and the acceptance that things were going to be more difficult and their assignments would be restricted. There were sacrifices they were going to have to make, not just, well, I wanted chicken and you wanted burgers for our takeaway tonight. You're talking about how their day-to-day lives were going to be affected over 18 months. So yes, that is more important evidence that we should be weighing significantly higher than a couple of members showing up at the gym together. So both examples, the hug at Goyang and the fact that they had traveled to the concert together and companion enlistment, show that they've chosen each other, but they are not equally significant at all. The greater the commitment and consequence and personal cost attached to a choice, the more weight it can reasonably carry. Now, does any of this I've said today at all prove that their relationship is romantic? No. Public evidence alone cannot establish the terms of a private relationship unless the people involved actually want to come out and tell us. Moving from the mountain of evidence surrounding JiKook's bond to placing a private label on what their relationship is still requires either they coming out and telling us or inference. Now, that does not mean that inferring things from the evidence that we have and making conclusions is foolish. We do that every day. If you wake up and you look out the window and the pavement is wet and the clouds are black and people are carrying umbrellas, you can reasonably conclude that it probably rained. Even if you didn't see it rain, you can look around and go, it probably rained. And you'd probably be right. Because the evidence around supports that conclusion. But unless you witnessed the rain, it still remains an inference. A sprinkler or some weird street cleaning vehicle could have come by and sprayed things down with water. Unlikely, but it's possible. And the same principle applies here. People can examine JiKook's repeated choices and reach their own conclusions. Personally, I believe I have seen over the years that I've been following this, and I've been around since Wings era, I believe they're in a romantic relationship. I also believe it's important to recognize where the factual evidence stops and my interpretation of that evidence takes over. Good analysis doesn't force us to choose between two extremes. That the evidence definitely proves a romantic relationship, or that it means nothing. We can acknowledge that the evidence is real, substantial, and significant, and that we've come to a conclusion about it, without pretending that it, without doubt, answers a question that only Jimin and Jungkook can provide the answer to. So the next time you see a viral JiKook clip, ask yourself some questions. What can I directly observe? How many independent events are there that are examples of this type of behavior? And how does it compare with similar events or similar patterns? And what is the strongest conclusion that this evidence can honestly support? A single moment may be incredibly touching and incredibly beautiful, but a repeated pattern will be far more significant, but neither gives us permission to claim more than the evidence actually contains. So this is, if you're new here, this is what Only Facts means on this channel. It does not mean pretending we have no opinions or feelings or instincts or brains or eyes. It means labeling what we do have in front of us honestly, refusing to turn speculation into fact, while also refusing to disregard genuine evidence merely because it can't answer a question. You can look at it and you can go, that is significant. Don't know what it means yet, because I guarantee you in the case of JiKook, a lot of times you don't find out what that moment or pattern meant until sometimes months later. Sticking to the facts, being very harsh about which ones you accept as fact, and sticking to those facts does not take the wonder or the beauty out of JiKook's bond at all. In fact, I believe it protects that bond from all these weaker arguments that are way too easy to disprove. You strip all those out first, people have a lot less to try and argue with you about. So tell me in the comments, which JiKook moment or supposed pattern have you seen that you'd like me to have a look at or us to have a look at next? I'm CJ. If you're new here, it is nice to meet you, and I hope you stick around and you subscribe. If you enjoy fact-based JiKook analysis, please subscribe. This is our new home for Only Facts. And if you would like to become more involved in our JiKook community, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/CJMoon. I love you. I purple you. Sarangai.